California is the largest wine producer in the United States, bottling over 600 million gallons of wine in 2023. That's a ton of wine, but nothing in comparison to all the waste that's left over from the winemaking process. We're talking thousands of tons of waste.
In California, you can have actually hills of wine waste moved around by bulldozers. There's just so much of it. And the problem with that is that after a few days, you'll have fungi, mold, and bacteria growing in it. It has to be disposed of fairly rapidly. The biggest problem is getting rid of all this material. We're talking probably hundreds of thousands of tons, if not millions of tons of waste material.
Wine grape waste is much more pronounced in white grape varieties, because when processing red grapes, the entire grape, including the skins, is used. But for white grapes, only the juice is used. The skins are usually removed before fermentation. This leftover waste, called pomace, is high in nutritional value, which is why researchers are looking to turn it into healthy foods.
For white wines, the grapes are macerated, but the waste stays behind as grape marc or pomace. A lot of the bioactives stay behind in the waste. That's why we were interested in studying the Chardonnay grape pomace, because we saw an opportunity to feed a product that was both high in bioactives as well as high in fiber, which of course fiber is under-consumed by Americans. So it was a way to add fiber.
That's a good point, that the processing does make a difference. The red grapes, the skin, the seeds, and the fruit itself are fermented. Most of the studies that have been done in Chardonnay grape because initially it has the highest percentage of polyphenolics, even compared to some of the red grapes. But in the process of fermenting, producing alcohol, you get more of the polyphenolics extracted into red wine than you do in white wines.
You just heard from ARS researchers Nancy Keim and Wally Yokoyama. Keim works at the ARS Human Nutritional Research Center in Davis, California, while Yokoyama works at the Western Regional Research Center in Albany, California. Both are looking to turn wine waste, mainly pomace or what researchers call marcs, into healthy food products. Keim is studying the health benefits of combinations of Chardonnay grape pomace and Chardonnay grape extract. As expected, the enriched flour is high in fiber and has a lot of bioactive material, which means it will react favorably with organs, tissues, or cells in the human body. How this material interacts with the gut microbiome could be key to seeing these nutrients translate into actual health benefits.
I think in combination with these bioactives, how it might have affected the microbiome, which we did not study. That probably would answer a lot of the questions we had at the end of the study. I think the other interesting part was we did see some changes in hormones that affect appetite, particularly the PYY, which is a result primarily of the materials along with the food eaten when it reaches the lower bowel. And so we do know that there's something going on with the microbiome. We just don't know specifically what it is. And PYY is known to affect appetite. So that was a positive finding.
Keim's research provided some key aspects for further study, especially if these potential health benefits actually translate into a healthier gut. A larger study, comprised of a more diverse population, could bring more clarity to the results.
The big takeaway is that when there's a pomace that has a high level of fiber in it, it will affect the gut. It will increase the transit time. It will improve satiety. And we hope that this would apply universally across individuals who might have a different background, but we don't know that yet.
While Keim is looking at the health benefits of white grape pomace, Yokoyama is studying the health benefits of waste from red wine grapes. Red wine grapes are high in polyphenols, which are compounds found in plants that act as antioxidants and have anti-inflammatory properties. Polyphenols have been linked to lowering cholesterol and protecting against certain diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and certain cancers. But Yokoyama is studying whether polyphenols from red grapes can reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia.
More recently, we've been looking at the effects on memory. There's been several studies showing that anti-inflammatory compounds will actually reduce inflammation in the brain. And people have looked at oxidative markers, reactive oxygen species, and other things, and related that to reduce inflammation in the brain. We think that's a really important area because the population of the U.S. is getting older, and not only older, but living longer. And people are really interested in quality of life in old age, and not to mention the amount of health resources that go to taking care of people with dementia. It would be great to prevent cognitive loss if possible. I think it's an important area of research, and I think that these anti-inflammatories have a role there.
The key is turning nutrient-rich grape waste into foods that people will actually eat. We heard earlier about studies where chardonnay skins were turned into a seed flour, and some companies are already making baked goods like cookies and muffins from grape polyphenols. But there's a bitter reality to adding wine pumice to foods.
The limitation is these polyphenolics, as well as other plant antioxidants, have an astringency or bitterness. So you're limited to maybe 5% of the food product. If you substitute 5% grape flour for flour or wheat flour, otherwise it becomes too astringent. On the other hand, it's well known that gelatin will precipitate polyphenolics, and they use it in winemaking. If it becomes too astringent, you can precipitate some of the polyphenolics with gelatin. There's a possibility of binding polyphenolics with these proteins, like gelatin, and decreasing their bitterness.
Binding grape waste with gelatin? That's good science right there. Getting back to grape waste, I asked my guests if they saw a viable market for these nutritional substitutes, like grapeseed flour.
Well, yes, if we use the whole marc, the study that Nancy has done kind of gives me hope that, maybe we can use the whole marc. And even at lower levels, maybe 1% or 2% in foods that people would not even notice, but totally it would have a big effect on your total diet. I think this whole idea of ultra-processed foods has got to a point when you take out all of these sensory objectionable compounds, you're reducing the healthy nutritional property of the foods. We're just used to taking everything out and just having the sweetness and fattiness and things like that. I think in some societies, they will eat more vegetables and a lot more different types of vegetables, and the amount of astringency doesn't bother these people. I think you get used to it.
I must add that we're still way below the ideal diet. If you look at other parts of the country, like in the Southeast, their diets are still very poor. Let me just give an example of sweetened beverages. They're still drinking sugar-sweetened beverages by the gallon, and these things really have to be turned around in total across the United States. For a long time, we've had the same set of dietary guidance, and it's still not being adhered to very well. The culture change may be happening, but there's still a long way to go.
There currently are several products containing healthy wine pumice on the market. Check them out and pick up your favorite bottle of wine with it as well.